When many people think of dangerous places, they often just think of nothing more than violent crime, and the cities where it occurs frequently. However, there are many places on Earth that go well beyond just crime and violence. They are dangerous in ways that many people cannot even imagine. From radioactive wastelands to underwater cave systems that lead to nowhere, here are 15 of the most dangerous places on Earth that no one should ever visit. Let's start off with Number 15. The Somali Coast. The Somali Coast is more commonly linked to pirates than anything radioactive, but that's only because the nuclear waste problem is buried. Oddly enough, both piracy and toxic dumping stem from the same root cause: the collapse of Somalia's central government in the late 90s. With no regulation or patrol, the country's coastline became a free-for-all for illegal dumping. Foreign companies saw an opportunity to unload hazardous and even radioactive waste at bargain bin prices. This silent disaster stayed mostly under the radar until 2009, when a powerful tsunami unearthed the truth. The waves smashed through buried containers, spilling their toxic contents across the land. The contamination spread more than 6 miles inland, poisoning soil, water, and people. The United Nations has flagged the situation for years, calling it severe, but little has changed. Residents continue to face serious health risks, and some water sources may now be permanently unsafe. Pirates might steal ships. This mess steals future. Number 14. Lake Maracaibo, Venezuela. Lightning happens everywhere. Sure, but not like this. Venezuela's Lake Maracaibo holds the world record for lightning activity, and it's not even close. In the skies above this eerie lake, lightning doesn't strike twice, it strikes thousands of times. Each year, the area sees roughly 250 lightning strikes per square kilometer, and during peak storm seasons, you can see up to 28 strikes per minute. This phenomenon is so intense that it can be seen 250 miles away, and sailors from long ago supposedly used the flashing sky as a kind of natural GPS. What's truly strange is that no one can fully explain it. Some experts blame uranium in the bedrock, while others point to unique wind and humidity patterns. But so far, no theory has stuck. It's a beautiful sight, no doubt, but it's also one of the weirdest and most unpredictable electrical hotspots on Earth. If you're not into sudden bolts of plasma from the sky, best admire this one from afar. Number 13. Honduras. When Americans hear about people fleeing to the US for safety, they often picture Mexico, but a large number of asylum seekers come from much farther south, especially from Honduras. The country has become infamous for its violence, frequently being labeled the murder capital of the world. The violence isn't random, it's systemic. Gangs operate like shadow governments, and the threat they pose is constant. Those with money live behind thick walls and security gates. For everyone else, life is a constant gamble. Join a gang or risk being targeted. Some don't even get the choice. Hundreds of young people die in gang-related violence every year. Now, what's worse is that fewer than 10% of those cases ever get investigated. It's a lawless place where the police can't save you. The justice system is too overwhelmed, too underfunded, or too scared to act. For many, fleeing isn't about chasing a better life, it's about escaping certain death. Honduras isn't just dangerous, it's a place where survival feels like rebellion. Number 12. Fergana Valley. The Fergana Valley is split across Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan, and the borders might as well be scars. After the Soviet Union collapsed, the region was left fractured, unstable, and soaked in tension. Ethnic clashes are common, religious extremism festers in the cracks, corruption runs deep, and the economy limps along. Thousands of refugees drift between broken towns, while government forces and militants clash in the streets. The bloodiest moment came in 2005 when the Uzbek city of Andijan erupted. Protesters gathered in the square. Fed up with brutal economic policies, the military opened fire. Official reports said 807 people died. Witnesses say it was over 1,000 men, women, children. Many were buried in unmarked graves before sunrise. No one was held accountable. No one was allowed to grieve in public. And the valley moved on as it always has. Angry, restless, and raw. It's not a war zone on paper, but in the Fergana Valley, peace feels like a rumor no one believes anymore. Number 11. Sun Dong Cave. The Sun Dong Cave in the Quang Binh province of central Vietnam is easily the largest known cave in the world. First discovered in 1990 by a local named Ho Can, it was only fully explored by the British Vietnam Caving Expedition Team. Sun Dong is just one part of a vast cave network, most of which still hasn't been touched. Experts estimate that roughly 70% of the region's caves remain unexplored due to how brutal the terrain is. And trust us, they are very. Sun Dong itself stretches about 5.5 miles, with towering ceilings reaching over 650 feet, and some areas nearly 500 feet wide. It's so big it has its own weather system. Underground rivers, waterfalls, and even a jungle. Access is tightly controlled, and only a few permits are granted each year, mostly to professional explorers. This isn't just a cave, it's another world beneath our feet, and most of it remains a mystery. Who knows what's still hiding in the dark? Number 10. The Mines of Paris. The seemingly infinite tunnels that run below the streets of Paris should not be confused with the catacombs of Paris, the famous underground ossuary, although the mines are also mistakenly referred to as the catacombs. Exploring the mines is illegal, and penalties include heavy fines. The mines were used to dig out minerals from Paris's varied sediment, the location where Paris was submerged for millions of years, and the tunnels are what got left behind. These tunnels are not monitored, not mapped, and not forgiving. They stretch over 370 miles, hundreds of feet below street level. Some are flooded, others are so narrow you have to crawl. Some drop straight down into dark, endless pits. You can scream all you want, it gets swallowed by the rock. Paintings on the walls, human bones scattered around, strange echoes. None of it feels like a coincidence. Bring backup flashlights, a map, clean water, and a healthy fear of tight spaces. You'll need all of it. Number 9. Leakin Park. Leakin Park, aka Gwynns Falls Leakin Park, is the largest park in Baltimore. It covers 1,216 acres and has been described as Baltimore's largest unregistered graveyard. The thick, vast forest has also become another popular dumping ground, as the trees overshadow the winding paths. Between 1948 and 2010, more than 68 bodies, many of which had been mutilated, were discovered, and the park's reputation of tranquil beauty has become blemished. In one case from 1968, the bodies of 3 children were found. The killer? A janitor carrying a bag with their mutilated remains. In 1999, 18-year-old Hae Min Lee was found buried in a shallow grave. Her case, which inspired the Serial podcast, pushed Leakin Park into the spotlight again. People still walk their dogs here. Kids ride bikes. But once the sun dips below the trees, the atmosphere shifts. There's something about these woods that feels like they remember, and they're not done collecting bodies yet. Number 8. Yellowstone National Park. There is a place where you might get away with murder due to an alleged legal loophole. Founded in 1872, Yellowstone National Park is a vast wilderness in Wyoming that also reaches into parts of Montana and Idaho. Due to the approximately 9,000 square kilometer, 3,500 mi V2 park stretching between 3 states, if you were to commit a murder in the section of the park that sits in Idaho, then you might get away with it legally. Here's why. Under the Constitution, you're supposed to be tried in the state and district where the crime occurred. But the Idaho part of Yellowstone falls under the District of Wyoming. And that slice of land, it has no residents, so no jury can be formed. In 2005, law professor Brian Kalt published an essay explaining the loophole, dubbing it the perfect crime. No one's tested it yet, and hopefully, no one does. But the fact that it even exists, yeah, that's enough to make you side-eye the pine tree. Number 7. Island of Snakes. Ilha da Queimada Grande, better known as Snake Island, sits quietly off the coast of Brazil, looking harmless from afar. But step foot on it, and you're basically volunteering for a venom-filled death sentence. This 106-acre island is home to the golden lancehead viper, one of the deadliest snakes on Earth. With a venom that can melt flesh and a population density of roughly 1 snake per square meter, there's no safe spot. Seriously, no safe spot. The snakes became trapped here thousands of years ago after sea levels rose and isolated the land. With no predators and plenty of birds to feast on, the vipers thrived. Evolution did the rest. Public access? Absolutely not. The island is closed to everyone except the Brazilian Navy and a few select researchers approved by the Chico Mendes Institute. Snake Island isn't just dangerous, it's a natural nightmare. If the snakes don't get you, well, nope, the snakes will definitely get you. Number 6. Mount Sinabung. Mount Sinabung, located in North Sumatra, Indonesia, was quiet for centuries. Then in 2010 it woke up and hasn't calmed down since. After 400 years of dormancy, the volcano roared back to life, sending ash clouds miles into the sky and burying villages in pyroclastic flows. Since then, it's erupted repeatedly, sometimes with little warning. Homes have been destroyed, entire communities evacuated, crops obliterated, and still, many residents have had no choice but to return, living under constant threat. Scientists monitor Sinabung closely, watching for tremors, gas emissions, and any signs of building pressure. But it remains unpredictable, a sleeping giant that keeps waking up angry. The volcano's proximity to densely populated areas makes it especially dangerous. One eruption could trigger landslides or lava flows that wipe out entire towns. Sinabung is more than just an active volcano. It's a relentless reminder that nature doesn't care about convenience, comfort, or warnings. When it decides to blow, it blows. Number 5. Helltown. The northern part of Summit County, Ohio, carries the blunt, unsettling name, Helltown. In the 1970s, Boston Township underwent a government buyout and a sudden mass eviction of residents. Homes were boarded up, some burned down by the fire department during training drills, and the area was left to rot. The original plan? A national park. But that never happened. Naturally, legends took root. The vibe alone, dark woods, ghost town homes, dead-end roads, is enough to make your skin crawl. One particularly sharp drop on Stanford Road is called the end of the world. According to local lore, if you get stuck there too long, you might run into Satanists, the KKK, mutant freaks, an escaped mental patient, or a comically large snake. Take your pick. Wander off the road and you'll find Boston Cemetery, home to grave robbers, a wandering ghostly man, and for some reason, a tree that moves. Whether it is truth or just a twisted imagination of some junky dude, Helltown more than lives up to its eerie name. Number 4, Humberstone and La Noria. These two ghost towns in the dry heart of Chile were once pretty thriving saltpeter mining hubs. Founded in 1872, Humberstone boomed until the Great Depression hit. By 1958, operations collapsed, and by 1960, both towns were completely abandoned. The working conditions were so brutal they bordered on slavery. And perhaps that dark past never really left. La Noria's cemetery, still eerily intact, features something you don't expect to see: opened graves with exposed bodies just lying there. Some say it's grave robbers. Others believe something else is rising from the ground. Nearby residents won't go near the place. People claim to see figures walking through town at night, former residents, children playing, shadows that don't belong. Ghosts appear in photographs. The Sci-Fi Channel's Destination Truth even featured it. Whether it's the broken history, the surreal silence, or the bodies in plain view, these towns are unsettling enough to make even the bravest visitors rethink that photo op. Alright, now let's head over to Number 3, Tepui Mountains. The Tepui Mountains aren't just weird-looking, they're borderline alien. These huge, flat-topped rock formations stretch over 10,000 feet into the sky and are mostly untouched by human hands. Found in the Guiana Shield region, Venezuela, Brazil, and Guyana, Tepuis are basically floating islands of prehistoric evolution. Because they're so isolated, the ecosystems at the top are completely unique. Plants, insects, and creatures live up there that exist nowhere else on Earth. But don't pack your hiking boots just yet. Getting up one is no joke. Sheer cliffs, dense jungles, and unpredictable weather make exploration treacherous and expensive. Scientists have only scratched the surface, mainly due to lack of funding and the genuine physical danger. But the mystery remains. What else is hiding up there? Some locals whisper about lost species and things we're not meant to find. And looking at those mist-covered cliffs from below, it's easy to see why tepuis are more than mountains, they're the stuff of ancient fear. Number 2. Stull Cemetery. Stull, Kansas, population barely 20, isn't where you'd expect to find one of America's most infamous paranormal hotspots. But tucked behind trees and cornfields, it's home to Stull Cemetery, a place shrouded in hellish legend. 2 real tragedies marked the early 1900s. A boy's burned body was found after a field fire, and a man was discovered hanging from a tree. From there, the folklore snowballed. The cemetery is rumored to be one of the 7 gateways to hell, and the now demolished church on Emmanuel Hill was supposedly a site for satanic rituals. The book Weird US even claimed the devil himself holds court there. Some say Pope John Paul II rerouted his plane just to avoid flying over it. Others try to sneak in during Halloween or the spring equinox, hoping for a glimpse of the unsavory goings-on. Whether you believe in the devil or just love a good scare, Stull Cemetery doesn't play around. It's creepy enough to make even skeptics second-guess that nighttime visit. Number 1. Church Rock Uranium Mill. In 1979, New Mexico witnessed the worst radioactive spill in the entire U.S. history, and barely anyone remembers it. At the Church Rock Uranium Mill, a dam holding back radioactive waste cracked open, releasing over 1,100 tons of toxic tailings and 94 million gallons of contaminated water into the Puerco River. The spill traveled over 50 miles downstream, cutting through Navajo Nation land and contaminating water, soil, and livestock. People drank from that river. They used the water for farming. Over time, the effects became clear. Increased birth defects, kidney disease, and a growing health crisis that still haunts the area today. What makes this even worse is that the whole thing was preventable. Inspections had already warned that the dam sat on unstable ground, but those warnings went ignored. To this day, the Church Rock disaster remains the largest accidental radiation release in U.S. history, surpassing even 3 Mile Island. But unlike other nuclear events, this one faded from headlines far too quickly. If you have enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you very soon.